It being after 7 o'clock on February 19th, I'd like to call the Charlton Planning Board meeting to order. First item on the agenda for tonight is a public hearing for ZP Battery Development Corporation for lot line adjustment on Larry's Way. This has been posted. It's posted on January 29th, and I can read the notice of public hearing. In accordance with sections 200-3.2.6 W and 200.7.2 G of the Charlton zoning bylaw. The Charlton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 19th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Planning Board office in person at George McKinstry Municipal Building, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. 01507, and on Zoom, meeting ID 211-293-2257. On the request of ZP Development Company LLC, 10 East Worcester Street, Worcester, Mass. 01604 for site plan modification to construct an energy storage system. The new ESS system is proposed to be placed on a newly created lot off from Griffin Road. The property owned by PCK Realty, 23 Deer Run, Charlton, Mass. 01507. The property is located on the proposed Larry's Way. The property is currently assessors map 27 block C lot 9.1. The lot is located in the industrial general zone. Copies of the plan application are available for inspection of the planning board office and town clerk's office during regular business hours. The application is also posted on the town website on the planning board. Any persons interested or wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated or via Zoom. Meeting ID number 211-293-2257. Okay, so Tom, I don't know, if you want to explain
Absolutely.
what the plan is?
So we've been asked by finance, to separate the permit. So our permit currently, we hold the permit now for this, for both projects as they sit now. They're on separate lots already, lot G and F respectively. What we are looking to do is to amend our current special permit to only include lot F for the system. And we've submitted a full application for lot G, which included all the safety information, which we submitted prior, as well as the ESS technical information and an updated site plan. So the idea really here is to split the permit, so there's a permit for each project versus both projects on one permit.
Good.
If that makes sense. So I'd be happy to go through anything and everything if you'd like me to. But the idea here is really just to split this project up. Like I said, we are coming in off of Sturgis Road here into the Larry's Way that we created. Lot F is up top here and lot G is here. So our original approval is here. What we're looking to do is get an amended approval for lot F to only include lot F, and then a complete new application for lot G.
Okay.
And I can go through anything as you guys see fit, honestly.
Size of the total system isn't changing.
Everything's the same. We sent everything to Graves. Mike Andrade had reviewed everything. His comment letter from the 6th of January. GI understands the applicant that the project financing has forced the project proposed modifications that relate strictly to the separation of the two BESS facilities, each on its own proposed lot as follows. A, modify the original approval to include only lot F BESS facility and related work. And B, review new and separate approval for lot G BESS facility and related work. GEI has reviewed the submitted documents and finds that the plans appear to represent the project as previously approved without changes except for the separation as noted above. Our only comment would be that lot G plan should be dated as a current date, which we would do.
Yeah, we also requested legal opinion on this. Simple way to do it, and John Silverstein just, this is the way they handle it.
Yep.
This is in the simplest form.
Yeah.
Make it clean.
So there's two separate items, right, at hand?
Yep, yep.
Lot G being, I think, what's in front of us right now,
Mhm.
public hearing, and then amending. The
The
original.
original one.
Yeah.
Enough of a change where it's a site plan modification and.
Oh,
Anybody have any questions?
yeah, just a question. So this, this document's the more recent one. There's one dated December 2024.
What'd you get there? Oh, is that my letter?
Yeah, the letter. The older one, it just has the sequence of events. Right. So in this letter, you're saying we're going to revise F.
Yeah, the lots changed.
Yeah. okay.
Yes, correct. That's based upon the systems with National Grid. Trying to time that. So the north one, gets built second. Realistically, they're
Okay.
probably gonna happen at the same time. So this whole exercise is kind of silly.
Right,
but,
right.
yeah.
So today, you are revising the permit for just G. And then you're going to submit a shiny new application for F.
You have a whole new application already
Okay.
for G.
So
The
you're,
new application is for lot G.
Yeah,
that's what we have in front. of us.
That's the whole new package that I had submitted. Back in end of December or something like that.
approving lot B separately from lot F.
Which one are you revising?
We are revising the original permit,
Yeah,
which holds a permit for lot G and F.
right.
So we're gonna revise that first permit back down just to lot F.
Okay, so that's different than what's stated. now.
Yeah, Graves review is what we're looking at as far as
No,
updated
I
material.
don't-
Yeah, don't worry about
All
my
right.
papers.
Okay.
Graves is where, you don't have Graves review?
Um,
I haven't actually. If you want
Yeah.
to see it. That's what we're speaking to.
yeah, thank you. Sorry for my,
Yeah, no, don't apologize. The lots changed. At some point in communications
the
between.
new one, for G, and revised.
Right,
And it looks like there's a corporation change here too for each of the
the LLCs,
lots.
yep, the LLCs, yeah, the individual permit holders. The LLCs would take them over.
And was one already created and you're creating another LLC
They've all had a project LLC since 2020,
individual?
but we permitted it under, since it was under both projects, we permitted under ZP Battery Devco.
Yeah,
So the Devco permit
yeah,
would get amended to the LLC for
to
For F.
LLC. And the DevCo still exists?
Yeah, it's the parent
Will
company,
Still exists.
which is also 0 points subsidiary.
Do you have other LLCs for the other lots?
No,
No,
no, just for the project space.
Yeah.
So each project has its own LLC.
just those two, F and G.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the plans remain exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's just taking the physical work off the plan for each project.
Is there any connection between electrical connection between F and G?
No.
So they both go to the
Street separate.
grid separately? And is there any connection to the solar farm?
No.
Directly, it goes,
No.
they all go to. the-
Every single one of them is
Yeah,
separate, yeah. The large one out back, the small one across from these two projects,
All go separate.
all separate lines, all separate connections.
Any other questions from anyone on the board? Anybody in the public? Yes.
I have a few, so you referring to lots, are you changing the size of them at all? Are you making them non-conforming in any way by breaking them up?
No, so the lot, are you referring to the lots of the projects?
Well, you're saying you're one on one lot and one on another
So-
lot.
So currently, right now, right now, our permitted plan, our plan set shows this.
Okay.
Both projects on both properties.
Mhm.
Still got the property line in the middle. We did the subdivision, through this whole exercise a couple of years ago. And splitting up the project space,
Okay.
for the use and one per lot kind of thing.
Mm.
So then what we're doing is keeping the one permit that we've got now, amending it down to this project. And I've submitted a whole new application for this project, just as like a formality kind of
So
situation.
does this driveway go on this lot? Like, are they,
Correct, yep,
so you're sharing the same driveway?
the drive access is an easement, yep, correct,
And will this interfere with access to the back solar field
not at all.
at all? Okay.
Nope.
And then my,
That access drive kind of veers off the side here, where Larry gets out back, and there's like a log guy, I think. right now.
okay,
I haven't been up
and then
there.
my last question is, you're the leasing, right? You're leasing this property?
Yes, yes,
Is PCK, they're not here, so I just wonder, how do you know that they're okay with everything?
he has to sign the application.
You signed it?
This application,
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Larry-
I don't have it with me, but
Yeah,
I just.
yeah, Larry's
wondered,
well aware, yeah.
just to Make sure.
They showed up, should be aware. Okay. Anything else? Good, anything to add?
No.
Nothing, no, okay. All right.
Sorry, one more thing. Do we discuss the commissioning bond at the beginning of the project?
We did, that is a condition of approval on,
Yeah.
and I would assume that the same exact.
Yep, yeah, we have not finalized, we haven't finished anything there, so it's, I
Yeah,
would assume it's got all the same approvals and conditions.
We still have to come back for decom.
Yep.
That's
Yeah, we
in
have.
the near, it's in the near future.
Right, yeah.
Things are keeping up and actually good with these two projects. So,
Okay.
Our new bylaws actually say that it has to be approved ahead of the building permit.
building permit, yeah, I would assume,
Okay,
yeah,
back from,
so typical process for us is that we would close this out completely. Prior to a building permit,
okay.
for decom. to have
It's
decom in
easier for
place.
us to get it from people.
I would assume, yeah, the kind of like that little key, yeah, you have to have the mechanisms.
Okay. Okay, any concerns, issues, or, no? Yeah, I guess, yeah. We have a motion approved with all the standard conditions and previous conditions that were placed on this. So you want to, let's look at. Well, we're looking at G now,
Right.
and then we'll have to go back and modify F after. We don't need a site plan. Public hearing for that, so, okay, so with all the same general conditions that we have on the current project. We have a motion to approve this project.
Make a motion to approve the ZP Battery Devco site plan amendment for lot G.
It's like, this isn't an amendment, this is a brand new. This is the brand new one.
It's confusing.
Yeah. Make a motion to approve the site plan application from ZP Battery Devco for lot G.
With all the
With all
same
the
restrictions and.
Restrictions
Yeah.
previously approved for the combination.
I second the motion.
We have a motion in the second, any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you, Tom. Okay, now, do we want to handle lot F at the same time? Yeah,
Totally
take a look at
I'd
it.
love to.
Go with,
It's not a public hearing, it's just,
it's a site plan modification. Unless the board decides that it needs a whole new site plan and I'm not sure we need to do that, so.
Have we heard anything back from Graves? Any feedback on this from them that we?
Yeah,
no, I mean, just.
That was just that one over there, yeah.
Essentially, it's the same plan.
Okay.
yeah,
It's a
his
project, we're just-
recommendation was that process. That was to amend and then here,
No material changes that would concern engineering.
he reviewed the changes. Which the Della Graves did.
they
Randy,
reviewed the plans, both of them, so they got both lot G and F. And I sent them the original, just so you know what he's looking at.
Okay, and we have the new application.
Yes,
somewhere.
full tilt.
This is for F, do we have the new,
You have a application for G.
For G.
do we have the new plans for F
You
two?
have the new plans for F,
Okay,
yes.
they're in the building, we have the new plans for F here, maybe?
They definitely right here in front of me. So you can have these ones.
submitted and
That's like,
just date stamped and all
yeah, yeah.
No, it's a- I don't know if you need these now.
Yeah, I have that idea.
You do?
This is what we need is a motion to approve the site plan modification for, battery storage. In Griffin Road, lot F to be 1/2 the size of the original project. Exactly. Changing it, just reducing it down just for a single lot F.
make a motion to modify the original ZP Battery Devco application for the combined property and just modify it for lot F,
Um,
subject to all the conditions previously accepted in the previous application.
the second that motion.
Have a motion a second, any discussion? Hearing none, seeing then, all those in favor say
Aye.
aye.
Thank you all very
Unanimous,
much.
thanks, Tom.
See you soon for something, John.
That was good. That was good.
Definitely, yeah.
At least 8 containers?
There are 8 containers, 5 megawatts, 4,948 kilowatts.
Per container,
No, full site,
the whole site,
5 megs,
5 megs.
roughly,
You say
4,948.
Well. Yeah, we are assuming for this 5 megawatts.
It depends on what system you get. Honestly, manufacturers are all different. Some
And
go,
this is lithium ion.
yeah, but manufacturer, Sungrow Manufacturing, theirs are back to back too, per, well, they're 0.67 megawatts a container. And they're split into 0.3 whatever on each side of that container. So there's a power, there's a safety aspect to that
So
container.
this is still about.
Still 4,948.
And I asked you because when the assessors look at things, because they need the actual
Actually,
Mhm.
value of the project. Thank you.
being after 7:05, public hearing for GM Properties LLC Villages Multifamily Units, 35 North Main Street continued. So I think we've talked about this a couple of times. The submittal was originally on the 8th of February 2024. They came here one day, showed a plan, and haven't seen them since. And we continue this and continue this and continue this. So,
Conservation Commission still waiting, in this disagreement on where the wetlands are and everything. They've been waiting for additional information as well, so. The whole application's been basically dead in the water, you know.
can COMCOM, continue with their work if we deny or rescind no, have you discussed with them rescinding the site plan or withdrawing the site plan?
No, they haven't requested it, but, I mean, the simplest thing for the planning board to do right now is to deny it without prejudice. And then when they're ready, they can submit the same application.
Okay.
You know,
They'll have to go through
we kind of keep going and going.
the cost to re-advertise again, because
Yeah.
right now we've been letting
Right.
people off okay, so COMCOM can continue their work even though we rescind the application or deny it
Yeah,
without prejudice.
So I have spoken to Rose, conservation agent several times about various things, and right now, this project, is being held up by the declaration by DEP that we're in a drought status. And there's a disagreement about whether or not the waterway that runs through that property is a perennial stream or an intermittent stream, and a proper determination is not able to be made, in my understanding, because of the drought status.
Right.
And that drought status, amazingly enough, continues on.
Good.
I happen to get monthly reports from various sources, and it's, yeah, we've had a little bit of snow, but the deficit over the past year is significant.
Okay. Good, so, I mean, what we can do is we can deny this,
Yeah, what are our options? Deny
deny it or keep continuing it.
Yeah. or continue.
Yeah.
There's
And,
no,
and the problem is, it's been forgotten, it was advertised so long ago that it's kind of off everybody's radar, and I don't think
It's
it's.
not fair to the neighbors.
It's not fair to the neighbors, it's an injustice to the town if we just kind of keep sneaking this through and. Or if it gets, kind of pushed through quietly.
Yeah.
So I would say, I'd recommend. Denying the application for insufficient data. And allow them to, at a future date, resubmit it and re-advertise and we'll have another public hearing, another public hearing.
how much is the application fee?
What's that?
What's the charge for advertising a new public hearing? Roughly,
Their whole fee,
Um,
can we waive that for them?
Price, the advertising,
well,
For the application fee?
yeah, I mean, they'd have to pay for a new application. That's $750. The legal cost is $100 and something dollars. Plus they have to notice all of the abutters, which is almost $10 per abutter. So to restart the application, and if the plan gets modified, by the way, they have to also have a drainage review on that, which another the cost of that as well. It's likely the plan, it seems likely the plan's going to get modified in some way anyways, so. What we have before is not likely to be the last version of the plan, so.
Something, yeah. I was just thinking to allow them to waive the new application.
well, I think all the legal notices and other public notices still need to go out, so there is some
Notices,
expense
yeah.
to that and some expense to this office to do that, so I think that's gonna be fees to them.
But
And I don't think
Yeah.
waiving those fees to help them would help the town at all, even if the town financially.
And for the project this big, I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, another,
$750. It's minor. That's an awful nice
Yeah.
idea, with your,
Simpler right now, mine without. prejudice.
it's got a
Same.
economics development hat on. Thanks. Try to help businesses.
Yeah, deny without prejudice now, just simple things, the planning board doesn't have to babysit the timing on the application, The planning board should be required to make a decision.
So do we need to notify them that our plan is to deny it or and have them come and visit or just
let them know.
afterwards?
Yeah, just do it.
Do it? Yeah, I mean, they
Would have been in touch.
would have been in touch if they had cared, okay. Okay,
Can I ask, does it seem like they've been in touch with Rose recently, or she don't know that?
I wouldn't, I'm not gonna speak out of turn.
This is when we first, had a informal discussion about this. The stream was, the same thing, was it perennial or intermittent stream, just
Well,
been a question from day one.
they have to wait until that is lifted to make a determination, of course, yeah, they're just waiting it out. Yeah.
so we've extended this public hearing to what point do we run up against that wall of, 180 days or whatever it is after submittal? we've got to close the public hearing within a certain amount of time.
Yes, we're at that time, yet they had given us till, the end of February.
Okay,
to-
Okay, and they haven't submitted a new,
They haven't reached out to me or anything.
there we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
So, we'll need a motion to deny their, submittal for. Is it a, site plan or? Site plan or special permit?
Site plan for 36 units. multifamily
okay.
development.
Make a motion to deny without prejudice the application from GM Properties, the villages at 35 North Main Street. Without prejudice.
And second the motion.
We have a motion to second, any discussion?
I think you might wanna say in that motion that it's because of lack of submittal. Don't leave,
Lack of submittal materials and communication.
Yeah, with no fault through the applicant, but due to lack of submittals to the office. of planning board.
So amended.
And amended.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Unanimous.
And they'll just get a formal letter from us. Maybe they'll just get a formal letter from us.
With that,
They'll just get a formal letter from us.
yes, I'll submit it, waiting to see,
Good comment.
having you move forward.
We're at the end of that. Anyways, okay. All right, time is it 7, uh-oh. Next agenda, and then okay, 7:10, discuss amendments to Charlton zoning bylaw. All right. Thank you, Kurt, for
thank you.
putting that all together and getting that to us.
More to come.
All right. Where we at?
So, back in January, I came before the board with a list of suggested modifications to the zoning bylaw. We had 13 items. The board gave some direction on those items, and I took the ones, some complicated ones, some that are gonna carry continued ongoing discussion. But I'm trying to move the ball forward. So the first item in your package that I would address is the one that says uses and structures. It says accessory apartments. As I mentioned to the board, the Affordable Housing Act has now basically stripped all the controls for accessory dwelling units up to 900 square feet. So that law says that you can't require the owner to live in any of the units, that they can have a detached unit, that there's no limit on the number of bedrooms. So basically, the easiest thing to do, I think, is to take our current definition of accessory apartments and just strike that whole thing out.
And that's defined in the state law too, right?
Right. So, I took out of that law and the regulation, which we provided you at the back of this package, a definition of accessory dwelling unit as a self-contained housing unit inclusive sleeping, cooking, and sanitary facilities on the same lot as a principal dwelling, subject to otherwise applicable dimensions, parking setback, lot coverage, and other requirements of this bylaw. Pretty simple. And then I go on to suggest that we create a new section 205.22, which is all our sections that we have. That's the next number available. And put forth a purpose statement. Trying to keep in mind what the law is and what the regulations are. A set of regulations, I called them allowances. I'm not really keen on that title for that section, but I don't know what else to call it yet. So we make some statements, suggested statements there. And must comply with all other applicable laws and regulations, including but not limited to the building code, electrical, plumbing, gas, and wetlands, board of health regulations, and utility connections. Mirrors information that comes out of the regulation and the laws. Suggests that because, you know, we have a law, we have a regulation, and we have people trying to do this. So I took some things that are within the laws and stuff or inferred by the laws and put them in here just so people, when they come and look, they have it together. Right? So the principal dwelling and or the accessory dwelling unit may not be sold separately from, misspelling there, the property that it is located on. You can't subdivide this, it's not allowed, we don't. Our current bylaw says designed to maintain an appearance of a single family residence as to the one family dwelling which it is part of and shall be clearly subordinate to the one family dwelling. That's the current requirement. That's a little bit subjective. What does that mean? You know, so the board should consider that. I left a not out of the next sentence, may not have more than one per property. That is in the current bylaw, that we can only allow one accessory dwelling unit on it. The law only requires us to allow one accessory dwelling unit, and my understanding of the law and the regulation is if you already have an accessory dwelling unit, you complied with the law.
So
And
that second one is not allowed by right.
not allowed by right. It is discussed later on. They cannot be used for short-term rental as defined.
It's defined by the state or it's defined by our bylaw.
It's defined by Mass General Law, Chapter 64, Section 1.
Okay.
I'm gonna use somebody else's regulations, so I don't have to make it up.
Mhm.
So then we go on, may be attached or created into an existing residential dwelling or its detached garage, outbuilding, or newly created detached building, or as a standalone building, it must be on the same lot as the principal dwelling unit. That's all the allowances. We can add it to, we can create it, we can create a new one. May have a separate entrance, either directly from outside or through an entry hall or corridor. That comes out of the law and the regulation. As the principal dwelling, but it still has to meet the state building code. That's language that's within that. If created in or attached to an existing dwelling may have up to, the law says 900 square feet. We currently allow an attached accessory dwelling unit at 1250. Of gross floor area, and that law, that regulation 7060 CMR section 71.02 defines gross floor area.
Okay, so the question is, do we want to lower it to 900 or keep it at 1250?
Yep.
Okay,
No answer required immediately.
yep, understood.
And there's just variations of that statement. And there, one is an existing dwelling, one is created in or attached to an existing accessory structure. If then the next sentence is if the created or it mean, you know, a newly created structure, and I just use the same numbers over and over again, and it's a decision that we have to make. Now, the interesting thing is that you think about it, 900 square feet on a single floor is 30 by 30. When I started 20 years ago, the attached accessory dwelling unit was 500 square feet, and over the past 5 years, it went to 500, 750, and went to 1200, 1250. Just a little history. So that's all sort of stuff, you know, protected by the law and the regulation.
But I think what it's missing is or less than half of the.
Right.
Primary.
Right,
principal dwelling.
that's. So if you decide the 900 square feet,
Yeah,
you know, but if we take this next sentence. Because I'm trying to figure out how to deal with the potential of a newly created building. How big does the town of Charlton want this second dwelling unit?
It's no longer attached to
Not
looking
attached,
like,
so
the
we-
same house.
So they have a yard, they have a house, and they're gonna just pop a little mini house, whatever, in their side yard or whatever.
900 square feet, 30 by 30, one floor. 900 square feet, 450 feet, 450 feet.
So I mean, we could always look at it and say if it's attached, it can be this size. If it's detached, it can be this size. So, okay.
So my next statement or my next suggestion is in no case shall the footprint of the ADU increase or create a new footprint area of greater than 1,250 square feet. Okay, so now the applicant has the option of, if I want to build a really big garage and put a really big ADU above it. The thing I struggled with is, as I mentioned to you, is if someone had a 900 square foot ADU. Gross floor area as allowed by law. And wants to put a 30 by 30 garage next to it. Because garages are not counted in the gross floor area.
And your footprint's gonna be a lot larger than 1250.
But they can have a garage, they could, if they wanna be on one level, they could have a 900 square foot, 1,250 square feet. And they can divide it up however they want, they could have a 2-car garage and a smaller ADU, they could have. A 900 square foot ADU and a smaller garage. Okay. The law requires for more than one ADU, a special permit. And that's a question for the board. Does the community want to allow more than one ADU on a lot?
And the law is silent on that, no?
No, the law is specific on that for a second ADU on a property, you must require a special permit.
Oh, it does say that. It's a law.
But the question is, it does not require you to allow a second unit. So it's just, so we could, as a town, say, one ADU per property. Because that second one is not allowed by right or. It's what can be restricted.
Yes.
Should be.
I think, it's a very so we have larger lots here. I've asked this board, we've discussed it before, should we allow detached ADUs a long time ago? Should we allow a detached accessory garage? I permit some pretty big accessory garages. We have some allowance for some very big. With a special permit for some very big garages on very big properties. I'm just trying to figure out what the temperature of the town is, what the temperature of the board is. To have potentially what looks like 2 single-family dwellings on a 60,000 square foot lot. And then, I provided some background information, current bylaw definitions contain this language, we talk about accessory dwellings. Okay, we talk about accessory uses and we use these words subordinate and incidental. Those are subject, I know what I believe subordinate and incidental means, it means smaller than. Okay. And then I took the residential uses out of the table. And the interesting thing to be careful of is that if there is an allowance for a residential building on a property, and there is a residential building on a property, in the BEP zone, we could have accessory dwelling units. We allow multifamily dwellings with a special permit in the BEP zone. So that's a really interesting thing that's come out of this is that if you have a multifamily dwelling on a property, you can have an detached accessory dwelling unit.
What if it's grandfathered in, you have a single family house in any district?
You get
Is
to have
this-
an accessory dwelling.
This is not more non-conforming.
It says that in in the
Yeah.
law, that, or in the law and the regulation
Wherever
that
there's,
if, regardless of its pre-existing non-conforming, if you have a residential principal dwelling unit
anywhere, you can add a ADU,
and it's coming, you have a property that.
is in some zone.
Mhm.
Do they have to have a separate egress or a separate driveway, or can they use the same driveway?
They can use the same driveway,
As long as it's big enough to handle an additional car or.
right? Can only, you only have to allow one addition, you can't require more than one parking. And if it's anywhere near a potential bus stop or high,
Yep.
public transportation, can't require a parking place at all.
Just one.
So what you're recommending here? Basically recommending is to remove any residential dwellings from business park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, business enterprise park, go back and look at, go back and look at the intent of the business enterprise park. We don't allow in the industrial general any residential structures at all. We have residential structures in industrial general. It's a little sort of more intense use in some ways than BEP.
And our BEP up there is the green? Is that what I'm?
Yeah.
This color green, okay.
So, but if there's already a house or an apartment in the BEP, they can now put an accessory. house.
Yes, yeah. So I give you some quotes. They're-
Site plan or just a,
Lot by right.
right, yeah.
So 760 CMR is the regulation that the Department of Economic Housing and Community Development, or whatever their name is. Okay, is the regulation that they promulgated to deal with accessory dwelling units, so I provided you some important parts of that. And I provided you with the introduction to the Affordable Homes Act. And I provided section 7 is part of the law that changed 40A. Section 8 is part of the law that changed 40A that enables all this to happen.
Mhm.
And then section 143, just as a little footnote of a section, section 8 took effect, which gave us ADUs in February, the beginning of this month. That's just when it took effect.
So if we remove accessory apartments from residential uses altogether? Strike that.
No, because they're allowed by right.
Accessory dwelling units.
Yes.
So if we take out accessory apartments in our bylaw,
Right.
should we change this to accessory dwelling unit?
Yeah, I guess that's a good catch, Bill. But that's the hard part. I've worked on a couple of different things in the past few months, and it's like you have to go here and there and find these little.
Reference, look back and forth.
And I provided for the board all of 760 CMR 71, so that you would have that to be able to look at that.
Yeah, very thorough. Thanks for talking that in there. What does CMR say about permitting this or applications for ADUs? It's by right, you can do it unless you're building or adding on, then it's a building permit.
So. This act is a zoning legislation.
Zoning, yeah, nothing to do with building.
Right, and I make that statement in the beginning so that people are clear that all the other applicable regulations apply. You still need a building permit. Doesn't matter what size it is, you still need a
So they
building.
have to go through the same exact process if they were gonna build a brand new house.
Or they were gonna put an addition on, or they were gonna put a detached garage on, whatever. Now, there's a couple extra, maybe if I'm just putting an attached garage on. or a detached garage on the property, I don't have to deal with the Board of Health for a septic system or sewage disposal. I don't have to worry about my water supply or any of those things. But it's a building, it's still building a building.
So what if they just finish their basement and lock off the door to the other side of the house and they call
It
this?
still needs a building permit.
What if the basement's already finished?
Change of use.
Yeah,
So here's the tricky part, and I'll get into it a little bit. But the building code does not recognize the term ADU. Okay, the building code looks at single family, two family, and multi-family.
What if it's a two-family and they add a third? Do they now have to be in code with a three-family and have
Depends
sprinklers?
on what they do. So it's an analysis that has to be done based on what's there and that,
And is it considered a three-family if it's just detached?
no, then it's not,
Would it be?
no. But so that's why there's this language in the law that says through a common hallway, they can allow it. Our bylaw, right, our bylaw says must maintain the look of a single family home. So I've always interpreted that as there has to be an interior common connection. Because if there isn't, it's a duplex.
and it's two doors.
Okay, we don't allow duplexes in the A zone. Okay, this state law says that regardless of what we call in our zoning bylaw a duplex, and regardless of whatever requirements the building code may place upon this construction, you can have a single entrance hallway going into two units. When that's proposed to me as the building official, now I'm gonna look at that as a duplex. And it has to be constructed with the appropriate separation. So I would say to them, you may want to reconsider how you're doing this. Because if you want to make a duplex, you have to have a fire separation. But they're two distinct separate issues. There's the land use issue of allowing ADUs required by the state. And there's, I'm building something in compliance with the building code.
What about like setbacks and stuff? Like how likely how is the same rules as before,
Yeah.
like? close to neighbors?
Must comply with lot area coverage, setbacks. All of that.
They're not gonna build a house 2 feet off of the neighbor's property.
I'm gonna build anything. The setbacks still exist.
Katie Brook, apartment G wants to build a ADU separate. Can they do that?
So I don't know if the apartment renter could do that,
But the condo,
but the property owner, it appears that they could.
okay? So that they're not separate lots, so the first one in wins.
Yep.
Interesting.
They could just
Yeah,
do
there's no
one,
lot lines there. Right?
maybe worth it, or something, right?
Yeah. Oh,
That's
and
That's interesting, yeah.
all of this has
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
been, you know, been to a bunch of meetings, been talked about, and it's like, what if? Well,
It is that way.
it's like a lot of other stuff. You have to, okay. Hypotheticals are really hard to answer.
Sure.
Give me a specific plan, proposal that I can walk through the steps.
If it becomes very popular, it's gonna definitely change the look of a lot of properties, but just imagine you have your beautiful house and you have your neighbor and your neighbor pops,
Tiny house.
a different, whatever,
Yeah.
so they want. It's a property, it's gonna definitely be interesting.
So,
I mean, I think it would be easier to pop in a tiny house, just put the thing there rather than add onto your house.
so another, you know, a tiny house is not an ADU. But an ADU could be a tiny house.
Yeah.
Okay,
And it might
tiny
be-
house has a specific allowance in
Definition or something.
the building code. No greater than 400 square feet.
Oh, Okay.
And for that, you get some breaks in what's required under the building code. It's still a dwelling unit.
Mhm.
But you don't have to have two separate doors on your 400 square foot.
Okay.
Well, Massachusetts modifies the building code and says you have to have two exits out of a building. But we allow a smaller egress window. Where the model code requires a very large egress window and only requires a front door.
Could a tiny home be a primary dwelling?
If it was the first building on the lot,
Yeah,
Then the second would be really, really tiny.
half of that one.
Half of that one.
well, and that's. Right, and that was discussed, we were in a meeting, well, I'm gonna build a tiny house, I'm gonna live in a tiny house, and then I'm gonna build a big house, and I'm gonna make the tiny house the ADU. And how does that work?
Yeah. Can you do that? Yeah.
I think, you know,
Yeah, that's
let,
gonna
let,
be-
let that bridge come to me before I have to exercise that question.
Anyway, but the big, that thing here is that. Probably there's a lot of septic that won't handle.
Yeah.
Another.
Yeah.
Is it that bathroom, bedroom?
Sure.
Bedrooms,
bedroom?
septic's designed by bedrooms.
So that will be the big thing, right, everywhere?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right,
it's interesting. Anything else you want to say about the ADUs?
no, thank you very much.
Okay.
So let's try for a light lift.
Yeah, good.
Reduced frontage lots. We've dealt with reduced frontage lots for a long time. The blue in this is suggested changes or questions. Right? So the first one is that we maybe should talk about structures instead of buildings. Right? All buildings are structures, but not all structures are buildings. Okay? Just clarifying a little bit that the setback line shall be a minimum of 200 feet from the front property line. It's sort of understood, but we've dealt with this in your special permitting. Reduced frontage access should not exceed 600 feet in length. And then we've been saying that the lot should get to at least the required lot width after that point. I know some of you, we dealt with a set of properties over on Old Spencer Road that they were very creative.
Mhm.
So then, and it's not, so reduced frontage lots are only allowed in the A and R40 zoning districts. But there are lots of uses that are allowed in the A and R40 districts. So my question to the board is the intent or is the wish that these be used only for residential purposes? Or if I was to allow to pick on something, a solar farm, would I allow a solar farm on a reduced frontage lot as long as it was 600 feet back? You're not gonna fit the 600, the solar farm on the 50-foot strip. It would have to be a minimum of 200 feet back.
Or a barn, right, or.
So. Or reduced frontage lots may be used for anything that's allowed in the underlying zoning district. Look at your table and see.
Yeah, I mean, the table's pretty excessive, so be careful with that.
We'll get to the table. I asked the board to consider taking all the footnotes out of the dimensional table. And it looks like I neglected to include the dimensional table. Remove stuff. No, here it is. So we have this table. And it has 12 footnotes in very tiny print. That,
Yeah.
I mean. Let's
There's
just make,
exceptions, Kurt.
yeah, well, let's make this clear so people people can see it. So there's a section in the bylaw, follows that is called supplemental requirements. Anything here in red is new or changed language. I did take a bold step and suggest this language to accomplish the purposes of the village district. The planning board may authorize a special permit to reduce frontage, setbacks, stuff like that. You know, is that something you want to be doing? Is that something that's something that's usually handled by the zoning board of appeals? It is a one-stop shop. It does give you the ability to have a one-stop shop that, you know, through special permitting, you may do that. It just seems a little tough.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. I mean, there were previous projects and areas in the village district. Our village district is rather large and includes some areas that are not necessarily village-ish. Yes, is the word. So special permit to do that, I can understand that and
So,
I can support that.
so I just took, you know, all the language that had to do with business enterprise park and put that all in one section, all the language that had to do with exceptions and changes and special permits for, you know, together.
Right.
And this maximum building height is contained in the language. That's some check questions. All district. A new section of stuff. This is sort of. There's a couple of footnotes that talk about, that the setbacks are not applicable to water and sewer pump stations. We voted those in. It makes sense that, you know, you don't want to have a huge lot to have this little pump station on it. And have to meet all these setbacks, especially if we were doing an eminent domain taking for the public good to put a pump station in or something. This not less than 25% of any lot area that's somewhere else in the bylaw. I think it's from 204.2D number 6. So let's bring these dimensional requirements all in one place, so you don't have to go over that this other section and find them. There's some exceptions. That's that whole section.
So how should we handle footnotes then? What's your?
We're turning all the footnotes into this format.
Put them into each district.
No, not in each district. There's a section in the bylaw that's called supplemental requirement, and it's shortly after this table.
Got it.
And it starts listing some supplemental requirements. Well, these are additional supplemental requirements.
Okay. For this district.
Right, and then I just, in this district, here are the supplemental requirements. This is what happens in village. This is what happens in.
Yeah. And you've pulled all 12 of these in forward. Okay.
And I had somebody else look at it and make sure I got them all, because my head was spinning. And the last piece I want to present to the board for their consideration is we've talked about this and we've done some modifications to the use table. In past, the last go round. I've said to this board repeatedly that anything that's in the community business zone should require site plan review. It shouldn't be. That's development at its finest, right? Providing proper siting, ingress and egress, and why is a indoor horticulture establishment, you know, any different than a one or two family dwelling or, you know, any different than a school, a private school in the same district. I highlighted a couple on the first page in yellow. So I made suggestions by striking out and putting Ps in or nos in. But I want the board to consider what we should do with dwelling units over the first floor business uses in the community business zone. Well, that's an SP. But in all the other zones, it's a P. Not sure.
Well, which one is that? I'm sorry.
So on the first page of the table, G going across, yellow highlighted SP. Is that what we want? I'm just, sometimes I'm not saying to change something, I just want to have a discussion and have the board confirm that that was the right decision. You know, and then compare that to in 1 and 2 family dwellings, a mix of residential and business uses. Well, it's only a P in that case in the same zone.
See, and then what if they want an accessory dwelling unit over a first floor business?
Accessory dwelling units are only applicable if there's a principal dwelling unit on the property. So if it's a straight business use,
That's not a dwelling,
that's not a dwelling.
so not allowed.
But if they had a apartment on top, they could put
No,
another one.
Yes.
So in CB, you can build a dwelling. You just can't build a dwelling over a business without a special permit,
Mhm.
which,
But why is, if I'm doing it over a business, is it an SP?
that's what I'm saying.
And why is it? If it's,
first floor.
right. The one below, is it a P? I think they should be the same.
Yeah.
Page 2. F and J highlighted in sort of, I don't know, I guess it's a blue. They're sort of the same thing, so then maybe they should be treated the same. Page 3, and if I'm going too fast, you know, just let me know. D, flea markets. A flea market in the primary residential zone,
Like a permanent flea market?
yeah. Not like a yard sale.
Yeah. What's it?
A
Define,
big giant building with like a.
So I mean, the thought of this is we've got a lot of,
You have discretion.
we have discretion
I-
with the special permit. So I mean, you've got, if for some reason, say off of Brookfield Road, where we've got a dirt track right now, they wanted to do a flea market in there.
That's fine.
With a special permit, you could allow something like that. Without it, it would be a no.
And that's one thing too, that I have on my list of things is to make sure that the board has for special permits. A measurable set of criteria. That they look at.
Sure.
well, it's not a flea market, this is a retail establishment.
And
Like, what's a flea market?
well, that's, you know, ask that.
Do we define flea market in our?
I don't have my book.
Like an open air retail establishment, or what's it?
Something not permanent and
Seasonal.
or.
I don't know. I'll have to look and see.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, how do we define that?
Where is it defined? Is it defined?
Maybe in there.
It may be defined in chapter 2 are definitions. I
Yeah.
just, I don't have the book right here and but I wrote it down. But see if we define it,
Okay.
because that's a good question, Bill, is what is the difference between a flea market and a store?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the quality of stuff.
Cause it, or we'd say, oh, probably what they would do is say, oh, this is not a retail establishment, this is a flea market. And then I can put it in A with a special permit. It's probably more likely.
Okay,
H is interesting too. But it's a very big difference between a barber shop and a laundromat, no?
Is it?
Or a shoe leather repair, if you had would you rather have a laundromat next door to you or a shoe leather repair place next to you?
okay, so you're down in H.
Just like an H, just,
Right. Well, so,
I mean,
so
it's
those
also
are
better.
certainly retail consumer business uses. They're not allowed in the A or the R60, which are,
Mhm.
but there again, okay, RSE, yeah, maybe it should have site plan, all the other zones, you might have, because lacking site plan, here's my problem.
Mhm.
Lacking site plan, it still has to meet all the stormwater requirements. Earth disturbance. Have sufficient parking. Have proper ingress and egress. And I'm the building inspector, I am not the. Or the person sitting in this chair is a building guy. I'm going through this right now with a set of duplexes. In the village district that are allowed with a Y. It's been a 6-month odyssey. To get a simple set of duplexes from. Because.
It's a lie. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a consumer service established, so that's an iPhone repair, laptop repair. So,
Yeah, those as a group
or is that?
all look like similar uses.
yeah, you want them to pull, you want this reviewed. In some cases, even by Graves or whatever, who knows, right?
How big is this is this a 12,000 square foot personal consumer establishment?
So do you want a planning board review, or would you want site plan review?
Well, P is site plan review.
Special permit.
No, I think we need to be busy, is it appropriate in so-called commercial zones as a group? To allow the use and just say we need to review that the parking is right, we can get in and out of it.
Regular.
Yeah, depending on what it
If
is.
it's
and
tiny,
use and-
it's not like you'd be punishing somebody for doing something
Mhm.
really small,
Mhm.
because we've waived.
Right, well, there is on my list. To be done yet is some breaks and the ability for the planning board for small cases or some sort of definition of cases.
Yeah,
To waive full-blown site plan, maybe require just a paper sketch.
speedy review is a big topic in the Economic Development Committee.
I mean, I know this board has dealt with a couple of people that wanted to open a used car deal. They want to have 5 cars. It was a
Mm.
dirt lot. It's always sort of been something, So. So some other, mostly,
Before we leave this page.
Okay.
For A or R 60 for J restaurants. That to me should be something more like a special permit. I mean, there's some areas. Some residential areas in town that I'd hate to see just a restaurant pop up. That wouldn't fit into that area, so. I mean, we don't allow it in R40. Why do we allow that in a residential district by? Site plan review?
why do you allow it at all? I don't know. It's been on the chart since
Mhm.
1987. I didn't look back
Maybe they
that far.
thought like sort of like a farm would pop up and wanna put a, like a
And that's
restaurant on a
fine,
farm or something,
but
but
wouldn't you want that under special permit so that
Yes,
it could be discretionary?
absolutely.
I don't know, we missed that last time.
It's tough to do this.
Hmm. And then if you're looking in other words, our RSC. Do we have much of that in,
RSE is this little blue stuff. So RSE is down here, so Ted's. Well, not Ted's, but behind Ted's. Around the fire station.
okay, I mean, there's enough of that in there
Yeah.
already where I don't. See anything popping up there. Being much different, okay. Any interest in changing J?
Yeah, I like that, I like that.
Change that to
special permit.
SP?
Yeah,
SP in the A zone.
yeah,
The liaison for J, for restaurants. Okay. Other eating and drinking establishments, most notably bars and grills.
Well, a restaurant that serves alcohol. So that's not a
Or,
grill.
they only serve alcohol, but they don't, what's
I know.
eating?
like the big.
How is an eating and drinking establishment not a restaurant?
Other.
hot dog stands, I mean,
You know,
just-
They only have a grill.
my take on it is
People
that
probably wouldn't
the,
answer.
most of these commercial like uses shouldn't be in the A zone. or the
No,
R40 zone
Yeah,
at all.
no, I agree, and just because we have them there now, doesn't mean we should continue to allow them there.
Right.
But the problem is. 80% of the town is. Residential. Which is. Which I like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I like that.
Well, and to further that discussion, to think about, go down this list of things that are allowed in the A.
Why wouldn't that be special permit, like the, under the, like, these are pretty much similar, why wouldn't this also be SP?
What's that for,
The other eating,
I
and
know,
drinking,
that-
why wouldn't that also be SP? Because, I mean, in reality.
I say, so the question is, do you wanna make a restaurants an N in the A60? In the A, I mean,
What, but that's no, because I like your special permit, because there's places where definitely in Charlton that you could put up a nice restaurant and not
Street.
destroy the neighborhood,
Yeah.
or whatever, I guess. And then, but there's not really a big difference between,
Yeah.
the most notably known as bar and grills, like.
I'm still struggling to figure out where you can put a restaurant in town and back.
Um,
Well,
I mean, they,
I'm sort of going that
somebody's-
way, like, look at what
yeah, I
we
mean,
thought was a recreational use.
Yeah.
And some of the opposition to that, and. Having, like I say, commercial like uses.
In
From
residential
people who come
areas.
to me and say, well, my neighbor's doing this, my neighbor's doing that.
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I think we should clean up K, though, J and K.
Yeah,
And
Because, what's a restaurant?
A
with
bar
an
is-
alcohol
is there
license?
one specifically for a bar? Or is that just really just a bar?
I think that's it.
I
That's just.
think changing-
Separate.
personally, I think changing J to an N is, If you leave it as-
Special permit, it could be a
you're also
big
leaving,
barn house, like, big little piece of restaurants or something.
there's a lot of infrastructure required for a restaurant.
and, the
A
parking and.
restaurant in the A zone without sewage. A restaurant in the A
And same thing
zone
with
without
the Jeffrey
municipal
Hill.
water.
The old McKim Street farm, and if they wanted to do a big restaurant there, but they would be limited to water and sewer and everything else, right?
Yeah. They would have to provide all that. They don't.
But then again, there's some other residential areas that we've got lots of small farms there now. And what would prevent somebody from wanting to put a restaurant in that neighborhood?
Not preventing, but that's why the
But
special
if it's a
permits
special
there. I
permit,
mean,
yeah.
You're also
because
leaving it up to the judge, the consideration of future boards and people.
oh, we could get a really
Yeah.
crazy one.
I just can't think of anything, but we'll move
No,
on. I had trouble thinking anywhere in town that a restaurant could pop up in a area that wouldn't upset somebody.
We have the same thing, right? Septic and water. We don't
Yeah.
have any of that.
That-
Right,
And
that's the constraint, that. So special permit would kind of,
Large restaurant on top of the hill where Charlton Orchards is right now.
Yeah.
Big, large,
in the barn, convert the barn.
there's a lot of traffic down that road that,
Yeah.
the people that live on that road in that
Yeah.
neighborhood too, so. My feeling is if you're in a residential area, you're living in a residential area for person because you like other residents and other
you don't want.
families. You don't want,
Yeah. But that.
You don't
that's
want a
the
business
special
next to
permit.
Okay.
Can I just ask about liquor laws? So if you get a liquor license, does that have anything to do with districts? Or is just issued to a business anyway?
So so liquor licenses, the selectmen are the liquor licensing authority, were allowed so many of certain types of, so there's a pouring license.
Yeah.
Okay, all alcohol pouring.
Yeah.
Okay, which includes hard liquor,
Beer.
wine, beer, wine, okay?
Right,
And we're limited by population. I don't know how many the total is, but I know that there are 2 available.
okay. And they could issue them in any zone.
Yeah, but what they would look at is like when someone comes for a used car license, they come to me with the question, well, is this use allowed where this person is putting it? So it becomes a new
Yeah.
used car license becomes or used car dealer becomes a dual jurisdiction. The land use component of Mr. Jackson Motors, right, being appropriately ingress, egress, all those good things, and then getting a license from the Board of Selectmen to do that.
Okay.
And liquor licensing is the same.
Okay.
Moving on for under CB for KM&N, changing that, is it KM&N, changing that from a Y to a P?
Can we? I'm sorry, can we just clean up the K, that other eating, drinking in restaurants? I mean, assume that every restaurant's.
Is there another
going
one
to
for a
have
bar?
liquor. Yeah,
It's either a restaurant or a bar, and the bar is a restaurant without food.
Yeah, without.
without a kitchen.
And you're straying into stuff that I know a little bit about, like there needs to be some food service. So what is? I gotta use brand names, and I'm only using brand names as an example. I'm not picking on them or anything. What is the 99?
I mean,
Our neighborhood
It's a restaurant.
Restaurant and bar.
Right.
Right? What is its principal sales? I don't know what their sales by volume
Yeah.
is, but they have a liquor license
They go to
And they
market as a restaurant.
and, okay. Guys, remember Jean's Cafe? In town?
Where Ted's is now.
Yeah, or Mondo's.
Mondo's is, yes, yeah.
Okay, Mondo's had food, what? But they didn't have a full restaurant
No,
venue.
no, you can get, you can get
Grilled burger.
burger or, yeah,
Right, so I would have called that a bar.
Yeah.
Mondo's a bar.
well, they did have prime rib on Thursdays.
Right.
On Thursdays.
Occasional
I can't
restaurant.
find it, but you know what, when you see.
But if I went there at noon on Tuesday.
Yep.
And I went to the 99, I could get a meal.
Sure.
I don't know if I could have gotten a meal on Mondo's on Tuesday at noon.
If I could interject, I remember from working in the selectman's office, some of those liquor licenses are tied to food.
Yep.
So at one point, when Quarter Cake stopped, their kitchen closed, Mary had to say, look, you gotta get hot dogs, do something. They actually had like a steamed thing of hot dogs. And put it-
Just some food.
But so there's certain criteria you have to meet.
Mhm.
You get so many liquor, all for so many with food.
So do we separate restaurants and other eating and drinking establishments or?
I don't know, maybe we just,
I guess, yeah, I guess, I don't know, one doesn't have as much food as the other ones.
look at the definition.
Either way, they should be treated the same.
I would think so.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at, the use.
So if you're looking at, in the village district, one is a special permit, one is site plan. One is site plan, the other one's, the one that's site plan is actually allowed by right in a CB district. Your suggestion is change that to a P.
Yeah.
Which makes sense to me.
Can we combine them and really just have eating establishments?
Eating or drinking
Yeah.
So
establishments.
I circled that group, fast food restaurants, and
Yeah.
fast food is certainly a separate use.
Yeah.
Okay. Restaurants and other eating and look at the definitions, look at how that.
Okay.
Plays together.
I personally, I don't think
We're just,
restaurants should be in residential areas. Is that even the special permit, it opens up a can of worms. In my opinion. There's enough areas in town to put those, I don't think. We're in dire need of a restaurant that bad to put it in your neighborhood. You know, leave it in the areas where we want the business.
And I question why those, if we were gonna keep them separate and not combine them, J and K should pretty much be exactly the same.
yeah,
So whatever the same is to be determined.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Okay,
exactly.
Next page. I have no idea why I took. Funeral homes and said they should be allowed with a P in the village district.
Village?
Yeah, it's no longer, that's been sold to a private developer.
Wait, do you know what they're doing now?
That's really
It's
well.
been sold to a private developer.
Yep.
So until I've heard, but until someone puts a plan in front of me, I don't know what they're doing.
that's fine. He's.
So,
Special permit,
I mean, there's some. We have some properties in the village district that could handle a funeral home with the parking requirements and everything else.
I mean, I know why I made it a P, because we allow funeral homes in all the other zones.
Yes, I suppose, yeah.
So that's why I
Agreed.
made it a P. You know,
Oh, I understand we have funeral homes in other zones. Once again, should we allow them in residential areas?
yeah. That's why I made it a P, is because across
Yeah.
the board, except for IG and industrial general, it's sort of like, yeah, do we want to? Is a funeral home in with a machine shop a good idea? Well,
yeah, what's the parking
Yeah.
schedule for a funeral? I should have like
I don't
2 times that.
all right, so that's that page. The next page doesn't have any changes on it or suggestions on it unless the board wants to do anything. The next page doesn't have any proposed changes on it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a weird one, too.
that's another one too, that I would look at that as a special permit.
Maybe, yeah, maybe it wasn't.
Yeah, I saw that one too, and I thought the same thing, I just think,
Oh, so
I actually wrote that down. So we're looking at animal and veterinary hospitals,
Animal-
site plan review in
it's
So
V,
what,
V.
what?
residential areas, so
okay,
V.
what-
My feeling is that should be
Special
a
permit.
special permit. Because there are definitely some areas that I could see them fitting in and being okay. but not necessarily I mean, we don't do kennels there, so why would we allow a veterinary hospital or animal hospital in the same area? Does that make sense?
And I didn't even see the animal kennel on the nation expense, so.
Yeah, it's
special
a very
permit
special
makes
permit.
sense.
Yep. Okay,
So I'm up to,
And this one, too. Hospital open.
I'm not sure if you can you regulate hospitals and clinics? Can you,
Is there any state laws that prevent?
I don't know, it's not a school, it's not a church,
and these would be for
it's
profit,
not an educational. You know, and it's not an ADU, those are all things that are in section 3 that are
Called out.
Something
the
to look at.
so-called Dover amendment.
Yeah,
Put a little star on why. We'll look at that one.
Where are you? I'm sorry.
Oh, why hospitals and clinics for in and outpatient use is,
just like
key
with
in agricultural.
and 40.
I know,
That's weird.
all right. I don't want, I was trying to keep this and we're doing pretty good. I didn't want to go past an hour tonight.
Yep, gotcha.
We
we're
get
gonna-
close to the end, skip a bunch of pages. I had no suggested changes. We get on to the second to last page. And
Sawmills.
sawmills. What's a sawmill? I mean, I know what it's, I mean, why do we even have it? We used to have sawmills. You know, okay, if they're accessory to an agricultural use, then they're a Dover. They're, they're exempt. But I don't know. And then
that's really just a workshop with sawmill.
When you see all these small units have been advertising.
oh, the band sawmills and
And
stuff.
sawmill,
Okay, well,
that's well, most of them are portable,
Mhm.
but, I mean, you can buy them non-portable too.
yeah. I mean, so sawmills, right, lumber and building materials, so it's no, and we allow them with P in the community business zone and IG with a P.
Do you think it should be a special permit
No,
or?
I'm just. I actually, I really, so I looked at lumber and building material establishments and I put retail. It's a retail activity.
Like the hardware?
Well,
No.
like a Howlett store or whatever. Harvey Industries or whatever, they're Lansing, they're now called Lansing. You know, that sort of thing. And then. The same thing if I get down to accessory professional offices in and dwelling conducted by a residential. Right, but in these commercial zones, they were wise and I'm saying, yeah, they should be P. You should have some, their commercial activities that could require parking, require some oversight.
Yeah, I mean, yep.
So I think
The
the
why is there too.
principal numbers,
That why for those in A40,
Yeah,
A40, R40,
sorry,
I mean.
AR 60,
Yeah,
yeah, AR 60, yeah.
that's a yes. Should be
special.
Uh,
Or P, SPOP.
or an N,
Okay, well,
no,
Just because if you were a therapist or something and you were gonna use a room in your house versus if you were gonna be
then that would be a home business and that's,
accessory professional office.
is a home, is this, is B a home office or is that more of a office in a, oh, all right, wait a minute, you're right,
In a dwelling.
never mind, okay, you're right.
So
Yeah.
if I wanna open a
Yeah, okay,
tattoo parlor versus, and I'm making that up. could be
Professional
anything,
services?
Versus being a therapist and I bring in one patient at a time.
Okay, I mean.
You think about it.
And
And I'm looking just above that in number 7B, research development or office use. I don't really care what the office is used for, it's just more like the size of the office. Like, well, why wouldn't we permit, some small offices in those zones?
industrial general or CB,
Yeah,
oh, okay, I see,
maybe it's more a size thing, but not to allow them at all, that's just an office.
Highlight it and everybody over in this home and study this and come back with all their.
back with an opinion.
so. Thank you much for indulging me and your homework assignment is to review the information I provided you so that I
Okay,
can help you go somewhere.
okay,
I'll work on some other things. I don't know if I'm gonna get stuff together if you meet in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whenever your next meeting is. If it's 3 weeks, I might put something together. I think the next thing I would present to the board is trying to get the special permit. That and some
Accelerated special permit, I'd like to see some of that
and some stuff around site plan review, providing the board with some options to if there's a pre-existing small thing, and we've had a number of them.
Mhm.
We've waived them before, but
Well,
there's no.
well, you probably need
official
some
process.
guidelines around that.
Right, yeah, I think, because it's like, okay, the board may weigh, if it's less than this, or if it's not doing this, then, or as the board determines or something like that. But I'm also thinking of the idea of when you need this $2,000 2-page site plan.
Yep.
As opposed to, here's some pictures of the property, here's a Google Earth image that shows the parking.
Yeah.
That, would be appropriate for that small.
farm standish.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
Daycare,
perfect, that makes sense.
Yeah, daycare, home daycare
Yep.
requires site plan review. And I think that's probably a good idea, because the neighbors might be upset, but to have to go and do contract with a professional engineer
Mhm, mhm.
to do that might be.
But what
And
is,
you limit that to notifying neighbors and.
right.
what was what do you use for definitions? What reference is it for definitions that you go to?
Well, so we have definitions within the bylaw.
Okay.
So if whatever it is defined in the bylaw, you use that first. Okay, and the general accepted practices is that you use other laws or regulations that may give you guidance, or you go to common usage. Okay, now I happen to have a copy and it's called the first edition of zoning bylaw definitions. There is no second edition and it's 15 years old.
Oh.
I looked, I says, oh, maybe there's
I
this
think
great.
nothing's changed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no changes at all.
Yeah.
No changes.
That's
And then there's another good reference that I look at. Sometimes I have a book called Black's Laws Dictionary. And then the lawyers all look at case law,
Mhm.
has is there something in case law that,
And somebody successfully argued this one.
right, and then there's somebody that successfully argued the other way. So, all right, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
Curtis. Nice job.
And by the way, I don't think we're gonna have a meeting on the fifth, so our next meeting will probably be a month from now.
Okay,
I mean, we don't have anything currently scheduled for the fifth, so.
all right, well, that's fine, then I will try and get another batch together, we'll have to be sort of cognizant of.
Of dates and times going back to the time meeting. So that might give us one other meeting to look at that for the final. Yeses and. Dot the i's, cross the
I'll
t's.
get what you
And
want.
then there's always next year to change it again.
Or if they invent something.
The other thing that we need to think about is I think that some of this, as far as article goes, need to be parsed, like ADUs would be one article. I mean,
So
we
throw it
don't
all
wanna
together.
put all this in one single article and have it go down
Yeah.
because there's opposition to.
Because some guy wants a restaurant next to his house and. Freeman Ave.
That's
On
right.
Freeman Ave. Okay. Hmm. That's fun. Okay. Okay, all right, thank you, Kurt. We can move on.
Thanks, Kurt. That was a lot of work. I appreciate it. Nice job.
So the next on the agenda is request for approval for decommissioning bond for NextEra Energy, 261 North Sturbridge Road. They've asked to put that on the 19th, the March 19th agenda, so we'll skip that one today. Do we need to? No, there's no public hearing on that, so we'll need to, no action needs to be taken.
Have they submitted anything?
Yeah, I spoke to Chris Nolan, representative for there, since he would be. Hopefully submitting the revised decommission bond to Graves Engineering this week for their review.
Okay.
And are we using Graves for that? I thought we think about finding some, we couldn't find anybody that, kind of has some
Yeah, I mean,
background and experience.
Particularly, they're not even close to being built yet, so.
Wow, okay, so this is 241 or
Yes.
260?
261
I would
North
say
Sturbridge.
that they are probably 80% panelized. And I haven't been out there in a couple weeks, but they were quite a ways along. They're working on their electrical. I know their interconnect has got a long way to go.
Long way to go for the interconnect or a long way to go before it's approved?
Well, there
Both.
are some public hearings and listening sessions in
Sturbridge.
Sturbridge. Because there's the three-phase line goes 2 miles. I think,
Have they done the tree work on those Sturbridge tree work? No, they've marked the trees, they haven't done any tree.
no, I think have they had
They've had a public hearing.
for you guys for
They had a
shade
public
tree.
hearing
for-
here
There.
for the scenic road, people down to the town line. And the service should get to,
Oh, yeah, there's a Sturbridge resident right there.
huh?
There's a Sturbridge resident right there.
Yes. Service should get to approve anything from the town line on, so. They, like I said, they have a ways to go, so we're not really holding them up, and we're not really,
Yeah.
ready for it anyway, so.
If you get anything from them, can you forward it? to us?
Yeah, as soon as I receive something,
Even before.
oh,
we-
yeah, I want you to have the updated one so that you all can review it
Yeah.
prior to the meeting. Just makes it easy for discussion. after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda, it being after 8 p.m., A&Rs for Bailey Casey Road, for Bailey on Casey Road. We have something there? We've got 2 of them tonight. And, Mr. Hanson, thank you for staying with us, and I don't know who else is on the for that.
Center of the two. Beachy Road. Basically subdividing off, lot.
Casey Road Billy or Billy?
Very on Casey, yeah.
Casey Road. So they're just breaking that one lot out? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
creating one lot, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay. Susan Bailey and Gabriel Bailey on Casey's Road, not to be confused with Lou Bailey.
Yeah.
Thinking it's.
Yeah, well, they created to, they can go around this house, get their 175 foot, road.
So that makes that driveway a right of way through the new.
Yeah, then they got that,
Yeah, 60, yeah.
Okay, so there'll be an easement through that property for the driveway and on the other house.
To the bound right here, it's 111.
Right, so that's, there's a turn, there's a turn. So the Baileys own all of this property.
Right.
And they're chopping, dividing out a parcel. That is large enough to be a house lot, that has sufficient frontage to be a house lot. And they can grant themselves an easement. To cross over the other lot. And then when they sell, if they were to sell that lot that they're creating, they would have already created, it would be in their interest to have already created that easement to put on the deed.
right.
Or they can just move the driveway.
Or they could move the driveway, but,
Is that a hill there?
I'm not sure.
Is that why it's going sideways probably?
I don't think they can hold
No?
them.
No, I think that's sort of a flat area.
Yeah. Skips. Which one?
Sound like a window.
Okay. All right, any questions on this? Nope. The motion approves A and R for Bailey on Casey Road. Discussion? None? All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Okay. No signing.
now this is Casey Road right up.
It is all.
Yeah.
It's right up the corner, comes back from our service, one time we met all up, man. Isn't there a stop in the back?
The ways back, there is.
You can see it.
Okay, second A and R, CR Hanson Construction Highland Road. This one's a little bit not as straightforward.
You have all the attorney letters. to go
That's what-
everything?
I see attorney letters, I started
Directed plan. including-
was glancing over earlier. So. There's four different questions that were submitted.
Yeah, well, as you can see, the property owner. Is. Their position is that the town line is not in the correct spot.
Okay.
The way the deed reads is, you know. Certain direction and everything to the town line. The difference between. Where Charlton shows the town line and where the developer is showing the town line. The different, the difference between whether he has enough land to subdivide, and make two building lots or not. But
Okay.
regardless of where the town line is. His deed reads that it's X number of feet from this point to this point, which does not bring it to the other side of the road, so. Regardless of. Excuse me. Where the town line is. His property ends at the original point where it's going to end and not on the other side of Eagle Road. or
Okay.
Isley Road.
Yep.
So, we also got legal opinions from our attorney. If, it has yet to be determined on exactly where the town line is, state of Massachusetts is working on it. You know, we're all pretty much in agreement to the town line.
Here?
Yeah.
Is where it currently
showing
is.
That they've been before the planning board, before the town line. In that, original location. We have nothing to show anything different than that. Except for this developer who.
Gotcha.
So regardless, even if the town line is in the wrong spot. If you read his deed description. It does not, the distance does not take it across either road. Regardless, so.
So how could we have these plans and how could we review these plans if they don't match up with?
Well, that's right, the suggestion of our attorney is to. Wait,
Wait or approve with conditions that they. It's tough to read that the responses from council. Here, if they're in,
They're backwards, you need to
yeah, I'm seeing that now, so the latest one. Is on the top, is that what I'm seeing?
that's the earliest one.
This is the earliest one for question 4. Okay,
I would not risk. Is that what everybody's reading, that 1 of 4,
Yeah.
Jonathan's final?
So I would suggest that the best answer is given on the email from Jonathan Silverstein, who's special counsel to the town of Charlton. Dated February 7th, 2025. And it's to myself, Andrew Golis and Kathy Stanley, who have been working on this issue, and Mr. Benson was unfortunately left out of that email chain, but I made him aware of it and provided those 4 pages of an analysis from Mr. Silverstein to the board. And then additionally, there was another email directly to Mr. Benson, further outlining why Mr. Silverstein makes the 2 recommendations that the planning board could take.
Endorse it, but disagree or deny it, basically. Those are the 2 options. See.
With the corrective A and R, is just the corrective A and R?
Yes.
Okay, so, if we deny this, or approve it with the condition that he proves the property is, or we deny it until he proves the property is.
Same difference.
So it's the same, it's,
Excuse me, can you hear me?
Sure, sure.
Yep.
One more minute, let me just, we'll open it up in a second.
Yep.
But, any questions from the board there? Okay, that's it. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
No problem. So I gave a letter to Kurt that was from my attorney. So the footage that Randy's talking about along that to the way on the 96 plan. Now, I don't think Randy understands if that 96 plan and that lot line, the town line is incorrect, the footage is going to be incorrect. So that if my deed states that we're bounded, and described by the town line, the property, the ownership goes to the town line. Wherever that town line is where I own up to. The footage going north-south is pretty much irrelevant to the ownership. We own to the town line, and that's described in my lawyer's letter.
Sure, but is there anything here that says that the town line is where you say it is and not where it is on the previous plan?
Yes, so there's a GPS satellite that was used. Mark Elbag, Bob Parente, my surveyor, multiple people involved. They shot it all the way over to East Brookfield, 2,000 feet. They took the monuments from Highland Road and shot it all the way across. So, it was used with satellite equipment. And I mean, that's about as accurate as you're going to get today. I don't think anybody ever paid attention to the town line on that side because no building ever happened on that side of the land. So nobody ever really cared. They just put that private way in there and, it was just the roadway that they made. Nobody ever built on that side of the road. So there was no reason to ever really look into the town line.
So who from the state is investigating this and how's that progress and have you heard anything?
So Mass State GIS has been made aware of this and has said, yep, that's where the bounds are. But they are not offering any opinion on where this property begins or ends. I would refer you to page 2 of 4. where Mr. Silverstein, the questions were posed, through, Mr. Golis, our town administrator, to Jonathan Silverstein, our special counsel. And, Mr. Silverstein goes on, to say, while it is true the deed which he acquired, meaning Mr. Hanson, includes a description of the land being bound by a municipal border, it also describes the premises by explicit reference to the 1996 plan, which is the previous plan that consolidated numbers of small lots, to the Burlingames. Okay. Therefore, although the deed described Lot 5 as being bound by the municipal boundary, this description was clearly based upon the municipal boundary shown on the 1996 plan. And he goes on, to say, you know, that the lot, as Mr. Benson has described, is described with a certain area footage and area. Okay, so the area is set forth. I understand that Mr. Hanson claims relies on a municipal boundary depicted on Mass GIS. That site contains the following disclaimer. The informational data on this data layer cannot be used to determine definitive locations of either individual boundary markers or specific municipal boundaries. Such determinations can only be made by a professional land surveyor. So what we have here is two different land surveyors offering two different opinions. And changes in town lines are done by the great legislature of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, having done that once here in Charlton before. Okay, and is not just based on the fact that one plan shows one thing and another plan shows another. So I have this thing that, while I appreciate Mr. Hanson's lawyer's opinion, I believe Mr. Silverstein, who I've worked with repeatedly, is very knowledgeable about land use, and that I would recommend that the board follow his advice and either endorse the plan, but does not agree with the boundary, or I think better is issue a decision denying the endorsement because sufficient evidence of ownership has not been presented. And then Mr. Hanson could seek relief through land court to adjudicate the boundaries.
You, Kurt.
So,
Thank you.
all right, my question to the board is, in his attorney, the attorney of the town is, he's saying that GIS is being used, all right, Mass Mapper or whatever you want to call it. This has been done by two land surveyors. So are we licensed land surveyors? So my land surveyors are incorrect? Did we have a third party maybe check it out to confirm that they're incorrect?
That would be the third party at this point, I think would probably be the land court. That would need to get involved. So they can, I mean, they can adjudicate that for certainty. That's the only way I think we can do that.
So you issue the denial. If you guys are gonna deny the plan, that's fine. Just have Kurt send over that information to me and I'll send it over to my counsel so he can be in contact with the lawyer that you guys are using. See if we can work this out somehow. Because really,
Sure.
at this point, it's legal.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
So what would you need, Mr. Hanson? What information?
We're gonna need to know why the plan is being denied, basically based on ownership. So if we have that in writing, because that's what we're gonna use to take it to land court, if we have to appeal the ownership, we need a legit reason for the denial. You know, because basically right now, to me, it's just a gray area. It's two opinions. There's nobody really, your attorney didn't even give you guys really, he's giving you an opinion, not a black and white answer. So you're denying a plan based off an opinion.
Sure.
And I'm giving you facts of the lot lines on how they're shown on the ground by two professional land surveyors with a GPS. So if they're incorrect and we get a third party that shows it again that it's black and white, they're not going to put their license on the line to give me, you know, to get me an A&R plan. Put it that way, especially people that have been doing this for 40 years. They don't care. They don't want to lose their business over it. So basically, if you're denying it based off opinion, so we're going to take that opinion and we're going to make sure that we, you know, get a black and white reason for a denial.
Easy enough. So you wanna go with option two, if
Yeah.
you give me a motion, then just basically just what it says right there, I think that will cover everything.
Make a motion to deny,
The endorsement.
the endorsement on this A&R submitted by, Hanson family. For failure of the applicant to demonstrate ownership of the portion of the new lots based on the plan's inconsistency with title records, describing both the subject property and the adjacent properties.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
I second.
A motion, a second, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
Okay, Mr. Hanson,
Yeah.
so what I'll do is I will contact our town attorney tomorrow
Okay.
and, just make sure that what we're releasing to you is proper and let him know that with my town administrator's permission, that your attorney can contact him.
Yeah. No problem. We'll go from there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've ever denied.
Excuse me, next on the agenda, review planning board's 2024 annual report submitted to Chronicle Law Events.
Thanks, Commissioner.
These in chronological order or? Not quite, huh? Yeah. Doesn't have anything in here with podcast or
what?
podcast? And that was that this year? When?
No, it's our seat into, well, 2023.
It wasn't year before? It was in December or?
Yeah, and then
November?
they had till February, but they decided not to come back.
But it was rescinded in February, I think. I think it was finalized in February, so. It's just, that's one that stands out in my mind. That's good, yeah. Thank you, Jane. Do we need a vote on that or?
Yeah.
Okay, vote to approve?
Make a motion, we approve the the planning board annual report for 2024.
With any additions that may have been submitted,
If any changes.
yeah, just that way we don't have to come back and review it again at this stage. Have a motion? Second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay. Next on the agenda. Other business unknown at time of posting. So there's a couple of things. John's not here, but Bob, have you pulled papers for election? You pulled papers, got signatures?
I just got it yesterday.
You need signatures? We can
I do
get you
have one
started here
website.
anyways. Okay, and then John still has anybody talked to John or? I'm sure he
No,
knows.
That is up.
but
that he's up.
we'll reach out to him just to remind him.
Okay, okay. Any other business? No?
This gentleman has come to me a couple of times.
Okay,
He's interested in a property that's behind 241 Service Road. And basically, he's trying to get the planning board to require 241 Service Road or Charlton developer to survey the property.
has it not been surveyed?
According to him, it hasn't, but every property around it. At this point in time, there's no reason why Charlton developer should have to survey this property. Except for this gentleman, we'd like to have them do it, I guess. I can't even explain why.
So is it the whole property or is it just this sub piece back here that?
It's a property, I guess, where they were proposing this. They used for their overflow, like.
Yes, yeah,
farming material.
that they never decided to use, so it's not even being used right now, right?
Right.
Can I see the bigger map? No, I want to see.
Yep.
Oh.
Let's take that.
Yeah, so this.
But let's, tell themselves, proposing something on the site. You know, they wouldn't necessarily need to submit a survey. You know, doing the property value jobs.
If they're not doing anything on it, well,
As Mr. Benson has said, when the original 241, well, the revision 2 of 241 Sturbridge Road came through, they were proposing to use this as a stockpile area. They withdrew that.
Yeah, yeah.
I've spoken to the owner of the property that this unsurveyed, unknown
Yep.
piece, who asserts that he owns all of that. And I think this would be a property line dispute between this gentleman and the alleged owner of this property.
Yeah.
It's not something that the town of Charlton,
I believe he's trying to get us to require, Charlton developers basically pay for it, so we don't have to.
but they're not building them, they're not doing any,
No,
any construction at all.
there's no basis to make Charlton developer do it, you know, we just try to get somebody else to pay for it, so he doesn't, you know.
We just.
So there are no work payments that are going on that property at all, everything's included in the other property.
And I told the front, you know, we just, didn't like the answer we received.
So if he
You wanna-
calls you, you'll know how to answer.
I think we can send them a letter from the office saying that the board has decided that there's no.
Yeah, as if we have a ruling.
Yeah, well, there's. Can we send them, can you send them a letter? Can send them a letter that the board feels that there is, it's unnecessary for, and there's
Yeah,
no,
sure.
can't think of what the word I'm thinking of, it's not.
There's no trigger. Trigger for action is evident. And charge him $35 for that. He pays that.
You're right. So I can understand it if there was some disturbance over there and, but that would, I still don't think that's a planning board responsibility. It's more of a landowner and land court.
Yeah, neighbors.
Yeah, it's a property line dispute. We don't get involved.
Really large piece of land, I'm sure these surveys, you know, expensive.
Yep.
So,
Yep. He could always bring a suit if he wants to find out where his property line is. That would open up a can of worms for everybody. That is a piece of property in this land coming to the town and asking them to have their neighbors survey it.
I have questions about boundary lines weekly.
Yep.
It's a civil matter
Yep.
and unfortunately, you know, we're dealing with a very complex issue here. But
Yep.
it's like, yeah, you hire your own surveyor, your own lawyer. And
Yep, and if they don't agree and. Okay. Anything else? Any updates?
no, I see they've, put a permanent guidebook together that.
Oh, yeah,
A lot of time we spent on, because there's a lot of time on it, basically, well, you know, by. Ian Murphy.
I had not got it,
Basically, the guidance for, you know, people coming in town and everything, so the process of what they would have to do, you know, if they want to. Say open a business or, you know, do various things they would have to, do guide.
and has this gone to EDC and,
No, I think EDC was the original,
okay,
it's published on the
Commission
town
that wanted-
website, it was published,
yeah, we've had a previous one, this is just a
Some
updated
updates,
version.
okay.
More user-friendly.
actually, the previous permitting guidebook, had been generated by this office, so, a while ago. And basically was a page per department with fees and duties
Oh,
and
versus-
stuff like that, and it really didn't guide you anywhere, it just this,
It's
through all
what you
the
need, but
efforts,
we're not telling you where to get it.
through all the efforts of all the people here in the town hall, not just myself, you know, got a thing together that is more up to date and it's less time sensitive. We pulled all sorts of names and stuff out so that, you know, it didn't say Mr. So-and-so, who's the head of such and such, who's been gone for 7 years, is the contact person.
Gotcha, okay, well, thank you all for the efforts in doing that.
Yeah.
Um,
Conference and, if, there's anybody who's interested in going, yeah, let Dan, myself know, the town will be paying for the.
So Jane, I put that on my calendar, but I'm gonna need to wait to let you know till we get closer. But I'm planning, I have not attended this conference yet, and I know you have, right?
Yeah, many years ago, and it's a great conference.
So it's open for anybody that wants to attend it, so Bill or Bob, if it's something that you're interested in, and
So, if there's anybody on the board that wants to attend,
Okay.
just let us know.
So, like I said, it's on my calendar, I
Can I-
put a reminder to remind me to.
I have, my kids, every year, they have this annual Irish dance. They do all the nursing homes and all the libraries and everything, and it's always on this day,
I'm not
at this
sure. Of
conference,
course it
every
is.
single year.
Yes, it is.
So good try.
Okay, so just keep it in mind if it's something you're
It is a
interested in, you want to do it.
great, the presenters are always just fabulous.
It's content, yeah.
Yep, okay, I just need to make sure I'm in town and.
Yeah, no, based on what we know and what we have before us, we might not have a need for the March 5th meeting because of just the middle applications and the timing of them. Yeah, we might not have anything for our agenda, the March 5th meeting. So it's potential that we may not have to hold that meeting. In way, in fact, the clerk said we need a little time to put all of that together, it actually worked out. Put it on our March 19th agenda.
So, when you would need to post by Monday morning,
Yes,
you need to post by the 3rd.
yes.
If there's nothing happening, just send a message, or not post. So, like I said, if there was gonna be something posted, it would be on the 3rd. So if there's still nothing, either you're out Friday, so Monday morning, just send a message to the board saying, you know,
And I looked up podcast, he let a special permit expire 2/9/24, so there's nothing to put on.
even that it was just, if you let it expire.
If you wanna,
Yeah, you read it,
Okay.
correct, yeah.
Okay,
okay,
well, yeah, I mean, just,
add it,
just add it, just so,
okay.
we didn't have any votes?
Yeah.
Thought we had a vote, but
Just. I don't remember it expired on the agenda.
all right. Anything else we're missing?
Okay.
Any parting shots? No, nothing you need?
Master plan.
Just appreciate your help in going over that information, and I guess if you're not gonna meet in the early part of March, if
We said the next meeting would be on the 15th, and we'd have to probably get close to making a decision there, I think.
I'm trying to think of so people, the board can't have discussion of any of these changes outside of a public meeting.
Yep.
But if the board members were to individually send their suggestions to me, I can incorporate them.
Okay, yeah. We just can't talk amongst ourselves.
Right.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Cause then, we'll have something to move the step forward rather than waiting and saying, oh, here's all these things, because I'm gonna be presenting another batch of stuff, so that,
Okay.
I would suggest that.
Okay.
A week or so before, if you have whatever If you take the stuff I gave you and handwrite neatly, I can't handwrite. But if you handwrite neatly, I will figure out how to incorporate it into an next draft.
Editing a shared document with audit changes turned on.
That would be a discussion because everybody can see the document, so.
We can't,
But not all at the same time.
doesn't matter, you still get, yeah, nice try.
Don't hit reply all.
Can't
Well, you can have reply all, you just can't discuss anything when you have reply all.
You can discuss having a meeting.
You can discuss having a meeting. Okay, since class is probably gonna be canceled in the next one, we'll use that for homework for, when we get back in session. Master plan,
Yes.
have we sent out a request for,
No,
Yeah.
I've been putting it together, but I had to focus on the annual report and we're
Been a busy
gonna
couple weeks.
get whole solar. We've been trying to iron out who has what information, we've taken time, so.
it would be good to,
I should have it done in like within another week or so.
okay, so that's something we could probably send out just to look at. I mean, we don't need to discuss it amongst ourselves, but reviewed individually and sent back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. It would be good to get that started before summer. And at least get some things moving so that we can work probably during the summer to build up a team and put a committee together.
I've recruited every single board, we have somebody that should be.
Okay. And I think I'm not sure were you at the last meeting? You were not at the last meeting. When we discussed having Laurie join as a.
Yeah.
Oh, you were here, okay. Who was it? There was somebody that was.
Yeah, I
here,
get
wasn't
this for.
You weren't here,
Yeah, I was here,
Okay.
I was part of that discussion.
okay. I thought there was somebody that wasn't here that
John, was it?
maybe not, okay. Okay, so just wanna make sure that everybody was. So on board with that and understand that we can get that off to her for a talent bank application. Okay, any other questions, concerns, issues?
On top of her coat.
Any other questions, concerns, issues? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we, adjourn the meeting. 9:26.
Okay.
I'll
And then
second.
we'll have a joint
We
meeting.
have a motion, a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
All have
Good night,
her-
thank you, folks.